You guys bow with me in prayer. Lord Jesus, we thank you for today. God, we thank you for the sunshine. God, we thank you for just new beginnings as we see buds on the trees and flowers blooming. God, we're reminded that you put a new creation in us. And we pray that we're able to take that new creation and love others the way that you love us. God, we pray for this meeting, that decisions are made based on what you want and your will. We pray all these things in your son's name. Amen.
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 Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Yeah. All right, we'll go ahead and call Marshall County Fiscal Court to order, April 6, 2021. We had Billy showing up first meeting of the month. So, Billy, you want to bless us with your presence?
Bless you with my presence. I get to hear that every day. You guys doing all right today?
Good
Yes.
morning.
Morning.
All right, good morning. I'll give you just a quick rundown. I was here just last month, and it's pretty amazing the difference that a month can make in what's going on out there in the world, and in the state, and also in Marshall County. As of right now, this is actually dated April 1st, so the last update I have, we're at a little over 2,700 positive cases total for Marshall County. 34 of them at residents. We've got about 50 active cases, and we've had 53 deaths related to COVID since this thing began. As far as the vaccinations are concerned, when the governor started opening up the vaccination sites across the state, we had just a handful, I think 30 regional sites, we'll call the regional big clinics. We had, maybe a couple of pharmacies, some of the health departments. But today, there are, I think, over 1,600 plus sites available across the state of Kentucky. And even though the vaccine distribution, production and distribution has not reached the level that they're expecting it to reach, the tide is already turning on where we are. For the longest time, there was no way we could get enough vaccine in to meet the demand. So the supply was very limited, and the demand was crazy. We would have 4,000 to 5,000 people on our list at any given point. We're getting 400 to 600 calls a day. People, I'll just say it like it is, some people were very upset, angry that we weren't calling them to get them in for their appointment, but we were getting a mere 100 doses a week. So we could make 100 people very happy and another 4,900 very unhappy. And that's the way it was for the longest time. Now we've got the Wild Health. That's what I guess that's the organization. That's their name. They're out of Lexington, Kentucky. I can't even say it here. Very professional group. I've been dealing with them for a little while now. They partnered with the state and opened up a clinic over here at Kentucky Dam Village. And these guys came in fully expecting to and prepared to administer anywhere from 4,000 to 6,000 vaccines a week. They brought in the crew, they brought in the equipment, they set up over there, and trust me, it's a very fine operation. We partnered with them in the fact that we are the persons that are oversight for it. So we go out there as a health department once a day, whether it be me or one of my staff, we go out there and we just kind of run through a little checklist to make sure that the vaccine's stored properly, that they've got the people available to do what they need to do, and the lines are running properly, and then we'll talk with some of the patients as they get to leave. We'll ask them 2 or 3 questions about the registration process and that type of thing. And it's FEMA related, so we're doing the things to help them get the FEMA reimbursement for what they do. It's been a great partnership. I will say, though, that the amount of vaccine that they brought in 4,000 doses that first week, and I don't think they came up to maybe 20-25% of that. When I was out there just the other day, I think I got there about 2 o'clock in the afternoon. They'd had 156 people total come through. And what it comes down to is most of the people in Marshall County have already, that want the vaccine, which, I have no idea how many here or there, but most people that want the vaccine have already procured it. whether it be with the health department, whether it be with another health department, whether it be with the hospital or the regional clinics and whatnot around. They've driven all these different areas, and most people have received their vaccine that want it. And we just still have some out there that are on the fence, some people that are, waiting. I might get it, I might not. So that's where things are going to turn for us over the next couple of weeks. One of the big things for the health department is we have converted over almost completely to the Johnson & Johnson, the one dose. And I'll tell you, that's going to make our world a lot easier for two reasons. One, because I feel like most people that really want the vaccine have reached out there. They've got it through either Pfizer at one of your mass clinics or Moderna, your two-dose rounds. They've got their first round, and of course, we're working on getting through the process to get everybody that we've given the first round to, which I wrote the numbers down here a moment ago. I think 1,300. So 1,300 doses that we've given out, prime doses, and we're just getting in, I think, 100 to 200 a week of Moderna to give the second round to get those done. So I would say within the next 2-3 weeks, month. I don't track it personally, but we'll have that done, and we'll pretty well be out of that market. We're going to keep a little bit on hand in our refrigerator there at the health department for people that maybe have went somewhere else and they got a prime dose somewhere, and if for whatever reason, whether it be travel, relocation, or whatever, and they're back here in Marshall County and they need that boost dose. So they call that an unsupported boost dose. So we're going to keep a certain amount of that on hand in order to take care of those folks. As I mentioned a moment ago, there's 1,600 sites out there for people to go to. So people can get, if they want to choose a vaccine, they can go somewhere and get Pfizer, say here at the Mass Clinic at Kentucky Dam Village. They can go somewhere and get Moderna, or they can come to the health department and get the Johnson & Johnson. We're getting about 400, I would say we're getting it. It hasn't happened steady just yet. They sent us 400 doses a couple, 2-3 weeks ago, and then we got nothing. And then this week we got another 400. And what's going to happen is over the next several weeks, we're going to get 400 doses every Monday. But as I mentioned a moment ago, the scenario has changed. So what's going to happen is we're going to have this 400 doses coming in, but we might not have 400 people to give it to. So we're going to be advertising and promoting and things like that. So it's a reverse role. So if you know of anybody that wants the vaccine, they're thinking about it, and they'd be happy to get that Johnson & Johnson because it's a one and done type deal, then have them call the health department, and we'll get them scheduled for that. Let's see. We no longer, I just want to update you guys, we're no longer working off of the sign-up list that we had. So what we're doing is we get that Johnson & Johnson in, we're going to advertise it, say, hey, if you want the shot, come on in. And we're not working with the phases either. There's no more, as far as I've told my staff, and actually we did that about 2 weeks ago. If somebody's eligible to get the shot, if they're 18 or above for what we offer, or if they're 16 above for the Pfizer over here at the Kentucky Dam Village, have them call in, get signed up, and get the shot. We're not, working off any type phases at that point. And the last thing is we're partnering with, I think it's J&R. Is it Blake Wiseman over there at J&R? And we're going to have him, we're giving him 200 doses, and he's going to go and take care of our folks at the jail. And so do you guys have any questions for me?
So as far as the list is concerned that you had, that at one time had 4,000 names on it, is it possible to share that with Wild Health so that they reach out to them?
Sure,
or?
we sent them every name.
Okay.
We did.
So
We sent
they
them
have
every name,
that.
every number.
I'm just amazed. I'm amazed as you are. I mean, they're prepared they're staffed to be able to do up to 1,000 a day. Mm-hmm. And I know the last time I did see one day at least that they hit 400 or something. Lloyd, I don't know. You may know.
There's people going in often. There's activity all the time.
Yeah, but it's
Not at the level that they wanted.
right.
And I guess it's just like what Billy's saying is that so many people have gotten vaccinated. I mean, I've got my shot at the health department. I got the J&J.
Yeah.
And my wife and I both know it. We had no side effects, no nothing. It was just easy peasy.
So do they share those numbers with you as far as like the 1,300? That's just you at the health department have given out 1,300. Right. That does not include Wild Health or JNR or any of the other.
I'll share with you, I had a young lady from WPSD call me.
Right.
My days get confused, Monty. So
Yeah,
whether it was
it's been a
last
couple
week or
weeks.
Last month, it just, my days
Yeah.
get confused. She calls me up and she says, I'm, so-and-so with WPSD. I got a question for you about the vaccines. I said, sure, shoot, I'll answer if I can. She says, how many people in Marshall County have been vaccinated? I said, I have no idea. I said, there's no way to track that because, folks from Marshall County have gone here and there. We've had folks come from other places come to us and, so on down the line. I'll go on record to say I sent an email to the Commissioner for Public Health, Dr. Stephen Stack. I sent him an email a couple of weeks ago, basically just venting my frustrations about the lack of vaccine that we've received here in Marshall County compared to others around us. And the numbers are the numbers. It is what it is. You had, Callaway County over here with the CFS-based center, they were getting thousands a week. And then Penny Ryle District was getting thousands, and then the surrounding counties, McCracken County, and the Purchase District Health Department there, and so going over to Christian County, Christian County received more vaccines than anybody in the state. I mean, literally, there's more than, especially per capita, than anybody in the state. And so I sent him a nice big. I said, hey, I'm frustrated over this. I really am, because I'll tell you a quick story. The hospital called me and said, hey, we've got a few people here that they need that second dose. It's an unsupported boost. Well, with us receiving 100 Moderna a week, we give out that 100. And then the next week we give out the next 100. The next week, within 3 weeks later, we're giving out that 100 plus the 100 boost for the ones that were in just 3 weeks ago. So it was working exactly that way. So when somebody calls me and says, hey, we'd like to get, I've got 5 people. Well, I can't turn around and just give those 5 people the Moderna, because now I'm taking away either somebody's prime or somebody's boost. And they wound up calling Callaway County. Callaway County came over and just gave it to them. And I'm going to tell you, just be honest with you, that frustrated me. It really did. I'm like, wow, I can't even take care of my own Phase 1A people here in Marshall County, and a neighboring county just comes over and does it. So I was frustrated. I really was. And so I sent him an email, and then the next day we had Wild Health coming in, getting all arranged, and so all that was worked out pretty quickly. But once again, the numbers, we were already there. There's only 31,000 people in Marshall County. And then when you start doing the number crunching for the amount of vaccines that we've given out, the different pharmacies, the hospital's done, and then you try to take into some guess as to how many people went to other places, and they did. Lots of them. I'd say about thousands went to other places because they wanted the vaccine and they wanted it now. So. Sure.
Yeah. Yeah, I mentioned early on that my mom went to Ledbetter to get hers. So,
And it just kind of goes to, when we received our 200 doses, Christian County in that very same time frame received 3,000.
or not Ledbetter.
So it was because they had that mass clinic and they set it up and they sent them a couple of the big giant pizza boxes of the Pfizer.
Better check on her if she went to Ledbetter to get her shot.
I know. I'm sorry about that, Smithland. Well, and I think, I received a call after that piece too, and I feel like that those numbers that were given to them from the other health department were probably guesses based on combining other locations.
Are you talking about as far as how many people in their county have
Right.
been vaccinated?
Yeah.
Let me tell you, when I watched the news that very night,
Yeah.
at the WPSD, and they're showing, Graves
8,000,
says,
whatever.
I'm like, they have no clue.
Yeah.
Trust me, there's not one county in this state that has a clue of how many people in their county have been vaccinated.
Exactly.
Where they got it. There's no way. But the thing that got me was that, the question that she asked me was not the question they posed, because had she just asked me, how many vaccines have you given? I can tell you that.
Yeah.
All told.
Or how many do you think have been vaccinated in the county or something like that? You
I don't
you
even
could throw a
guess that kind of stuff.
stab out there, but yeah, that's frustrating.
But
You're
so far,
telling me
we've
the media don't give you straight questions? I thought it was
It's
just
pretty
me.
amazing, isn't it?
Yeah,
But
Except for Lloyd.
yeah, Lloyd, you're a good old boy.
I'll give you guys one final update, though. I've been trying to follow these new variants of the virus that's going on out there. There's the B.1.1.7, there's the B.1.351, and there's the P.1. One comes out of South Africa, the 351, the 1.1.7 is the UK virus, the UK variant, and I can't even remember where the P.1 came from. These strands, and I'm not a scientist, I'm not a medical professional, I'm just going by what I'm reading and what I'm, researching in this. It's normal. It's absolutely normal for a SARS virus like this to mutate. It's what they do. And so far, everything they've been tracking, the mutations haven't made the virus any worse. In other words, it's not killing more people, it's not making them sicker. But what they have discovered is it'll transmit faster. So it's more contagious with these two variants. And so, in certain other countries, they've already gone back into lockdown because, they let their guard down and boom, this thing's spreading around and it's making people sick again. Their numbers are going up. And there are also some other states here in the United States that are dealing with that as well. So, I'm just keep my eye on it here in Kentucky as a whole and as Marshall County, we're doing well. We really are. All the counties across, we're doing very well. We've got several green counties out there, so they're in the green zone when you look at that daily report that comes out from Frankfurt. So I think the cases that I read yesterday, Kentucky had 110 new cases. That's a record. We were getting that in single counties for the longest time. So as long as we can, and what we're understanding too is, people think about this vaccine will help slow it. It'll help stop it. We don't know if it's a cure. We don't know if we'll have to get this vaccine, like to do a flu shot. We don't know if we'll have to get one every year. We don't know if it's a one and done for your life, like the, smallpox and polio and measles and things like that. We don't know. But what we do know is we've got to halt this thing. We've got to stop it. So otherwise, the B.1.1.7, the UK variant, could get into Kentucky, and if it gets into Kentucky, it's going to spread. So we do want to make sure we do things to make sure that we stop that from happening. And the vaccine is effective. It is. It's working. It's doing its job. So I encourage everyone that can get a vaccine, that wants the vaccine, to go ahead and make that call and get scheduled. If they want the Johnson & Johnson, we're getting 400 doses a week. Right now, folks aren't beating down our door. Nobody's calling to, give us a hard time about getting in. So we're trying to get a hold of other people now. So we're going to be advertising to get that out there and let folks know we have it.
All right. Billy, we appreciate it.
All right. You're welcome.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you
Thanks,
now.
Billy.
All right. We'll go on to item A. I'm just going to read off those items as they're listed. Billy is a surprise for us this morning. So item A, Chris Freeman, the 911 director, about the KOHS grant.
Excuse me, I'll be real quick. Got an opportunity to go for a Kentucky Homeland Security grant to fix the radio situation that we have going on for not just one department, but for all. Call me crazy, but I'm going to take another stab at it. I got a chance to get some money and some funding. Hopefully we can put this problem to bed. So I've prepared a resolution that the judge has got allowing us to go and ask Homeland Security for some money to fix this issue.
And we've got some guests with us today so that they can give a presentation to see what actually the Kentucky Interoperability Plan that's been discussed for years, along with the communications. So can you introduce our guests this morning?
I want to say a couple other things
Yeah.
before we get started. One thing I want to remind y'all is this is something totally outside the scope of my job duties. I'm doing this as an opportunity to help. So I want to put that out there. It's not something I'm necessarily that 911 is responsible for, but it's something that this community needs, and I want to put that out there that we're trying to do what we can do to help the situation, because it is a situation that needs to be addressed. Secondly, next week is National Telecommunications Week for our 911 dispatchers. I've sent out emails the past couple of years asking commissioners and other folks and other agencies to come down. I figured it might be a better opportunity to say that now. So next week, Monday, starts a celebration for those folks for the entire week. Most communities do proclamations proclaiming that their week. You see a lot of those things on Facebook. We've never done anything like that. we have been put through the ringer over the past couple of years, so it might be a good idea to reach out to those folks and say, hey, we thank you for what you do. You can go ahead and
Absolutely.
introduce them now if you want to. That's all I got.
Absolutely. Brad's gonna, they got a presentation, so Brad's gonna get this set up. I'll share with the court. I sat down with the mayor of Calvert and the chief of police to share this opportunity with them. They obviously see an opportunity, but these gentlemen obviously are the experts at it, and they can share the details. Please ask questions. They're here
Thank you.
to shed light on what
Thanks,
they've
sir.
been given the opportunity from the state. And this is a state program that can benefit us as a community. I know, and you'll probably touch on it, Indiana, there's some other states that Motorola has, so I don't want to get into your thunder.
Yeah, if you want, I can go ahead and kick off.
Yeah, go ahead.
Well, first of all, thank you and welcome. Good morning. My name is Jay Burla. I'm the area sales manager for Motorola Solutions. I cover Indiana and Kentucky. I have Robbie with me. He's my local account rep along with Sean Erickson. Robbie's out of Lexington. So the goal here is just to come down and educate on what the new statewide system is that's being built on with our equipment. So I'm going to try to keep it light, keep it simple, and any questions, please feel free to ask. Let's go in. So the first thing I want to talk about is Motorola Solutions as a whole. We have a pretty good lay of the land as far as radio communications. We've been in the business almost a century at this point. Started off as Galvin Manufacturing back in 1928. This map right here just gives you a little breakdown of what we do for statewide systems. And the reason I talk about statewide systems is in order to put a system in your county, in your city, or in your state, there's a heavy investment in the cores, what we call them, the brains of the system. So a lot of times what you see is whether it's state police, whether it's a certain agency gets formed to provide a solution to all agencies across their individual states. Some states are too big, to have it, so they have pockets where they have, 15, 16 systems within there, and they're interoperable across the board. P25 is what you'll hear is the interoperability standard for radio systems. So you see Texas and California, it's not that they don't have anything, but they probably, some of their counties are 1 million people, right? So they have multiple radio systems built within them. So again, my focus over the last 7 years has been Indiana. I was recently moved up about 2 years ago to help with the Kentucky rollout because it's quite an endeavor. You have two things going on. You have the state building out their system, and then you have local expansion, where cities and counties decide this is where they want to go for the future. So as I kind of go through a little bit about the, you'll hear it called the 7800 system. That's just P25 digital. They have two geographically redundant cores. So again, the brain of the radio system. The primary is in Frankfurt, and then there's the secondary core in Elizabethtown. So the way that the system is networked is through queues. It's basically microwave point-to-point technology. So in the event that a path is broken going to Frankfurt, it's automatically going to route itself back to the other location. That's the great thing about the radio systems is the goal is to keep no single point of failure, right? So if one thing goes down, something else picks up. The cores are redundant. The core themselves has redundancy built in, so the goal is to keep it up. Great thing about radio networks is in the event you do lose complete communication to the cores, you're still operating on your little island. So it kind of just builds upon the failure scenarios. If one thing goes down, the next thing picks up. If another thing goes down, the next goes up. So again, the backhaul being microwave, we call them loops. There's a lot of different paths going back to where it needs to go in order to talk. I'm going to hit a little bit on where KSP is at, where Kentucky is at as far as the build out. So the first couple years back in 18, they received funding through the budget to update all of their equipment. So cores, consoles, the dispatch equipment, that's how the 911, as Chris brought up, how the 911 troops, they talk back to all the troopers that are out throughout the state. So we updated about 16 police posts across the state. We put in the cores and we upgraded their radio equipment. So that was kind of phase one, right? Phase one was getting everything kicked off. Phase two, or 1C as we call it, was inked in 2019, and that's the rollout of post 1 and 2, and that's one of the reasons I'm here. So over the next 12 months, Motorola and our team of engineers and structurals and tower climbers across the board, we're going to be in about, I think, 19 sites we're going to be putting in. Marshall County obviously is part of post 1 and post 2. So we're adding equipment for the troopers in order to switch over from their older system, their UHF system that was put in, I think it was about 1999, 2000. And we're going to slowly begin to migrate across the state. So if you see, the next one is a larger build out in phase 2. And that's going to be 65 new sites going in. So that's kind of where we're at with the current stages. We had what we call a detailed design review, or a DDR, about a month ago. All of this equipment is now being staged at our staging facility in Elgin, Illinois. We're going to basically build the system so it completely works, and then we're going to go ahead, box it up, and we're going to ship it out to all the individual sites. At that point, we're going to be putting it in the shelters, moving equipment around, fixing some of the shelters that need it, fixing some of the towers that need it, and going from there. So we have the opportunity at this time, we talk about expansion. If somebody's looking to add, it's a lot easier to add onto the system prior to us setting up the equipment, setting up the point-to-point, the microwave, compared to waiting till that's all complete and then coming back around when we move our entire team off to the east and coming back and doing it. I want to talk a little bit about growth, and you're probably wondering why I have a state map of Indiana up here. So again, as I said, I had started in Indiana. So Indiana had built a statewide radio system back in the early 2000s. With everything going on and expansion, they needed to upgrade their system. And you talk about P25 interoperability, that's what they went for. They obviously went for grants, different things. This was funded through, Department of Transportation, state police, DNR, everybody takes part in the system. So the contract itself was executed in 2014. So really what I want to show is when you talk about growth, back in 2014, if you look up in the north side, all the counties that border Michigan, all of those arrows, all those sites connected, there was only one batch of those there. They were generally just single sites. So in the last basically 5-7 years, we've added an additional 4 simulcast systems, which are large deployments. That's where the populations are 300,000-400,000 the people. The number of single sites, so that's a city or a county saying, hey, I'd love to join in and I need coverage in this area. It jumped from 134 to 149. Department of Corrections added sites at all their facilities. Counties that have their dispatch centers that work off the system, directly connected, went from 7 to 24. There's only 92 counties in Indiana, so you can see, in a little bit of time, there was a quick growth. So overall growth of the system, so when it was first launched, it was 92 sites. Now we're over 190, and the 90,000 plus I had highlighted, there's 90,000 radios, whether that's Motorola, E.F. Johnson, Kedwood, Harris, Tate, Realm. As long as it's P25, there's over 90,000 IDs that were issued on that system. So if you look at it from a statewide investment, instead of individual counties investing and spending, $5-6 million on their own P25 network, they join the state and they're saving money. Indiana itself, they have a commitment right now with Motorola to keep their system up to 2037. So when Kentucky decided to do something like this, they followed a lot of the things that other states were doing. What was Michigan doing? What was Ohio doing? what was Tennessee, Indiana, et cetera. So right now, actually, let me go back one. Yeah, I'll leave it. Right now, the state of Kentucky has committed till 2032. So if you look at it from an investment perspective, you got 11 years where they're saying we're going to keep this equipment up, we're going to keep it going, and part of it was just how long they wanted to do the commitment. Usually you see 10 to 15 years in these type of systems. Radio technology is always changing. It's not quite like cell phone. It's not quite like cars, going from gas to electric overnight, as we've seen. I can't come to a fiscal court meeting and ask for a lot of money every other year, so these investments do last. So when you look at it from, this is not a 1-year fix, a 2-year fix, generally speaking, 10 to 15 years. I have equipment in certain areas that have been going for 25 years. It's not supported anymore, but people still use it. So from an interoperability standpoint, whether you're doing prisoner transports, whether you're trying to talk to your next county, whether you're trying to talk to state police, the technology goes back and forth and works with the multiple systems. The great thing about it, this isn't a rip and replace. The way I look at it is you guys have existing infrastructure, that stays. There's no changes there. I always look at it, I pitch redundancy, that's all I talk about. So if everything went wrong and you needed to change something, you always have your current system to back you up. It could be used for other pieces as well. I know paging always comes up as one of the things. Paging stays on VHF. That's where it's always been. That's where it sits at. There's newer ways to do it with 800, but VHF paging, that's kind of where it sits. So as I get into it, I wanted to kind of give you what your county is going to look like from a coverage standpoint. So currently there's sites in Mayfield, Lyon County, Paducah, Livingston, and over at MSU. And this is mobile coverage. So if you think about it, this is the sheriff's deputy driving throughout the county of Marshall, and everything that's green is 95% coverage. This is today's coverage, or will be today's coverage with the KSP system. What you're seeing in the holes is we're saying that's not 95%. That doesn't mean your radio won't work. That means if you key up your radio in that area, you might not get into dispatch. You might not get out. So obviously the goal is to fill as many holes as possible. So what we looked at is there's a couple different county sites that are available. What happens if we did add a site somewhere in the center of the county? Obviously the goal is to fill the holes, see what we can do. Again, mobile coverage is great, but let's face it, generally what happens is somebody pulls somebody over, they get out of their vehicle. So the mobile is no longer really utilized. At that point, they switch over to the portable radio on the hip, and that's their only lifeline back to 911 or back to any of the other workers that they're working with at the time. So I'll kind of skip through this piece as far as the design goes. This is going to be based off of portable coverage. So again, as you're getting out of your vehicle, you could see everything in purple is where the new site would add in and fill a lot of the holes. When KSP designed the system, they designed it using repeaters in their vehicle and mobile radios. So everything is talking through the vehicle. Not everybody does that. A lot of times individual counties and cities are going to invest in portable coverage because they're, whether it's EMS, whether it's somebody from transportation, they're getting out of their cars. They're getting out of their ambulance. They're getting out of the vehicles. They're going inside of buildings. They needed to be broken down that way. So really the site in question is filling a large gap in the center of the county and putting some coverage in. So I have outbound and inbound, a little bit of a difference. So one big thing is no matter, anybody who saw the maps, they saw there's still holes, right? So I wanted to talk a little bit about coverage gaps and how do you fill them. So from Marshall County possibilities, you can always add more sites, right? That's the easiest thing. Is it efficient use of frequencies? And, simulcast systems, what I talked about up in northern Indiana, the differences of what they did there. But what I'm most excited about is some of the potential that KSP is bringing in, and it's through some of the technology that we have, such as Smart Connect and Critical Connect. So everybody here before the meeting was using their cell phone, right? So with some of the new technologies is we're bridging the gap between cell phone and radio. So if you're inside of a building and you're, in this fiscal court, in this meeting, you could be using your cell phone and connecting to the radio system and talking back and forth with either your deputies, with EMS, with fire, doesn't matter. If you're going inside of a burning building, if you're getting shot at, I highly doubt you're going to want to be using your iPhone or your Samsung, right? So that's where radio always has its place. So one of the other things that we have is Smart Connect. And Robbie, if you don't mind grabbing those. So these are one of our newer radios. They work on they will be working on the statewide radio system. And then if they lose connection, so you saw the coverage gaps that went through the county, they automatically roam over to LTE. So whether you're using FirstNet or whether you're using Verizon, it keeps you connected on the system itself. So it kind of gives you an example of where technology is going from a radio perspective. Those today are connected to Chicago, so as the radio is being keyed up, it's going over LTE, it's connecting to our Chicago core, the brain, and then it's transmitting back. So it's always it's giving you that extra level of redundancy. And then for typical radios that do not have the LTE chips, we have new technology allowing it to roam onto Wi-Fi and talk across those lines. So the end goal is we don't want anybody to not have coverage, right? So how do we fill those gaps? Sheriff, from your perspective, you probably have MDTs in your vehicles, so you have some sort of hotspot that could connect back to a radio. So just constantly keeping you connected. That's the end goal across the board. So I did just ramble through a lot of what's going on. I tried to do it quick. I know the basketball team's going to be doing a roundabout at noon, so I didn't want to take up too much of the time. But as far as questions go, as far as what the state's accomplishing, as far as experience, again, I've added myself probably about 40 sites in Indiana, so I know what it takes, and I know the hurdles that everyone goes through. But anywhere we've gone, and again, as I go back to one of the first slides. The numbers speak for themselves as far as growth. I mean, you look at the North Carolina system, this is back in 2016, so the data is old. There's over 78,000 users. Michigan, over 72,000. Michigan actually just celebrated, I think they went over 100,000 users. So it's a great system to be a part of. And we're just here to educate, talk about it, and my goal is to see how many people can add. The more that adds, the better the coverage gets. If a neighbor adds, your coverage gets better. If you add, a neighbor's coverage gets better. It's a good sharing project if you look at it from an investment standpoint.
As far as the maps are concerned, we were in the coverage based off the Draftville site, so it's right there by Marshall County High School. So that's where the coverage is based out of. That single site being the main point to expand.
Would this be an additional radio that would be equipped? Or is the coverage, is that something that can be programmed in the radio?
Yeah, so the existing coverage I saw was with just a typical radio. So if you have P25 radios already, you get them programmed on the system, they work, and that's what the coverage was based off of. So there's certain areas where if you don't leave your bubble, if you don't leave your city, your coverage is great, you don't need anything else. There's other areas where you might roam into a certain thing where you might need one radio to plug in here or one radio to plug in there. But yeah, as far as if it's a P25 interoperable radio, I'd love it to be Motorola, right? That's my job, but it could be anything that's P25. That was the whole point of the interoperability standard that was established in 2001.
So like a prisoner transport, I know a lot of times we're picking up prisoners all across the state. The individual that's traveling would have communications back here. So if they're in Pikeville, with this system, once it's in place, they could actually communicate to 911 back here.
So generally the setup's going to be, we call them talk groups, so it's no longer a frequency. So you have talk groups that are assigned. So the sheriff's office could have, Sheriff 1, Sheriff 2, and dispatch. Each fire department has their own talk groups. EMS has their own talk groups. So as they're roaming through the county, they're talking back and forth with 911. If you go outside of the county, generally speaking, your talk group will be available in all of the surrounding counties. So if you get in a pursuit and you go outside, you're just talking right back to dispatch. If you go multiple counties out, you switch to either a regional talk group, mutual aid, or something along those lines, and then you're keeping back in contact as you go through instead of just, if you have your own radio system, as soon as you're out, unless you have radios like this, you're out of the system. It doesn't talk back anymore, so you're on your own.
And if the court remembers, one of the issues is we've got 3 agencies on one channel. So these talk groups benefit those agencies.
Yeah, the way it would be set up is we call it, it's a 6-channel system. One is I guess the easiest way I've always explained it is you go inside of the local grocery store and you have 5 lanes available. In a current analog setup, or even conventional, you're only assigned 1. You can only go to lane 1. So if somebody's in front of you at lane 1 and 2, 3, 4, 5 are open, you have to wait until lane 1 opens up. With trunking, which is what this system is, there's somebody assigning, saying you go to line 1, you go to line 2, you go to line 3. So you could key up your radio in lane 1 and then respond in lane 4. The system does all the cores, the brains, does all the trunking in the background. So it's the most efficient way to utilize all the resources. So you can go from 4 frequencies in the county today to, each department can have 4 or 5 different talk groups. You're not going to put 100 out there because then everybody's just sitting on their own little talk group, but that's usually how it's broken down. So it gives those availabilities. And then most P25 radios have emergency buttons, so in the event of emergency, you can kind of skip the line and put yourself right in front.
And where I see the advantage is that Motorola has a contract to provide a level of service. So this type of level of service over 10, 11 years is maintained by Motorola.
Correct.
Which is huge.
We
for
have
us.
an upgrade plan with the state where the technology we're installing today, there's going to be new tech that comes with it. We're going to be doing software upgrades to it. So it's always kind of state of the art, right? Otherwise, the minute you put it in, it's 12-month-old technology, 24-month-old technology. So we're constantly going to be upgrading throughout. And from the radio standpoint, the radio keeps on ticking. Keep batteries in it.
Where did you get the coverage map? Is that your own?
That's run by our internal engineering team.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you did that prior to setting the presentation up?
Correct.
I mean, so you were, okay.
Yeah, we generally, what we do is we do statewide coverage, so we have an idea of where all the county's coverage is. So if somebody asks us to come in, where's the tower at? And then we plug and play from there. So.
And within that, tell me again, so within those, the first one anyway, where through the middle to west part of the county, it's coverage, but a certain percentage. What's your
are you talking about this map?
Yeah.
Yeah. So this map is what the current coverage will be like, no matter what. So this is what the state is putting in.
So even with the new tower,
Now with the new tower, that's where you fill the gaps through the center of the county.
All right.
So the way KSP wanted to focus, they wanted to focus on certain roads, main roads, highways, the ones they patrol the most. Because a lot of times downtown areas, city areas, it's either patrolled by the local police department or the sheriff. So they're not there as often. The equipment that they put in their car is going to make them work throughout, but they weren't worried about portable on-street coverage in like downtown here, because chances are they don't come here, right? So that's now when you get in the outskirts, that's where they needed to have that coverage no matter what. So,
but within that, I guess the shaded area, you have a
The
percentage
95%,
of 95%.
yeah,
Okay.
so anywhere that's green and purple, what we're saying is 95% or better
Okay.
chance that when you key up your radio, that you're going to be getting back in and out of coverage.
Okay.
If it's white, if it's not colored, at that point, it could be 94%, it could be 0. It's just not meeting our, it's kind of a radio standard, 95 or 90%, just giving you that basis.
Hey, Monty, don't mean to interrupt, but I just wanted to throw something out there, Commissioner Collins. The 95% is a public safety standard. So no radio system, you're ever really gonna get 100% coverage for obvious reasons, terrain, buildings, other things, but APCO Project 25, that standard to be 95% is where that number comes from. So that's why it's not 100%. I think that may have been what you were asking. So that is a national standard for radio communications for it to be public safety grade, 95%.
Is a service provider the same for the primary and secondary?
So for what, maintenance, you mean? Or what do you mean by the service
Well, for
provider?
the transmission, I seen on here Frankfurt and then E-Town is secondary, so I assume it's going to have to go from here to Frankfurt or,
Correct. So that's where it rides over a microwave network. So the microwave will go, in this case, we have it going for, what site was 102? Let me double check on something.
Basically, there's a bomb shelter in Frankfurt. At the core of this system is going to be sitting there, right? So that's where the heart of this system is. And in case something ever happened to that, the heart would be in E-Town. So that's the, I think it's right. Correct. So that's, it just transplant the heart, that's all it's doing. So instead of it beating through the bomb shelter, now it's beating through E-Town until they get that one back up and running. Then it's basically just redundancy to help it make sure the system still flows.
Your connectivity will go from the center of the county to Mayfield, and from there, it has multiple different paths to get to both scenarios. So once it hits Mayfield, if going east breaks, it goes west. If west breaks, it goes east. And then if all connections break, you still have your single site pumping out, a lot of wattage at the center of the county.
Would these replace the portables that we carry then? Or?
If you have P25 radios, then you just use all you do is you get an ID, you have it reprogrammed. And
You
then,
have to have those to have the Smart Connect though?
yes, yeah. So Smart Connect, Wi-Fi, that's something that we build within our code. So it's kind of an extra bonus, but I mean.
So if you go with those, then the P25s we currently have, we don't have to have those, is that correct? Or
Yeah,
do you have to
if
carry
you
both?
purchase though, yeah, you're not gonna carry both, yeah.
Those can replace what you
Those are
currently
just shiny
have.
new toy, right?
Yeah.
Those are the shiny new thing.
But you have to have that to have the Smart Connect.
Correct.
Yes.
So when you go back to Indiana, the 90,000, there's one Apex Next on that system right now. So because we're adding the backbone and all of it to it, so it's going to grow. That's what you'll see. If you have a 10-year-old radio, people are going to replace. They're going to get the latest tech. But if your radio's 2 or 3 years old, you're going to keep it probably another decade. So
You could run with both at the same time though?
yeah.
Thing for yourself, you want to get one.
I don't even carry a radio.
No, and so our standard, you have the Apex, just the regular 6,000. And we obviously, I mean, we have we have the 900, the 4,000, the 6,000, the 8,000, and the next. So we have standard radios. These are the ones that can roam onto Wi-Fi, and then you have basic ones that's all they are is a radio. They key up, that's their goal. There's a lot of technology built into it, but that's some of the basics.
And
Need a radio.
the agencies will determine what radios they want.
Correct.
And I think that's key. So like Calvert City, for an example, whatever radios they want, they will determine what radios they want. The fire departments, whatever radios they want, they will determine what radios they want. The infrastructure is what we're looking at to support, like you say, if I'm understanding correctly, the P25.
Correct.
This infrastructure will support that.
That is the goal.
how many counties do you work with in Kentucky currently?
So currently we have, as far as trunk systems, Henderson, Davis. Louisville has a couple different ones attached to it. Bowling Green, Northern Kentucky. As far as what we're doing right now, this is just starting. So what I said happened in Indiana, this is kind of ground zero as far as getting everything going. So we're having a lot of conversations with different counties throughout. It was always talk before, but now we're actually going to be, once you start seeing sites unloaded in your county, then people start to get excited about it. So that's the process we're at right now. So it's nothing that's, the state's not forcing anything, but they're putting out. It's going to be a decent amount of money to get things started, which they've invested in. So it's a nice thing to join if you're looking for long-term investment. This is where it's at.
Well, I think what's attractive for Marshall County to look at is its cost sharing.
Yeah.
I mean, this infrastructure is a cost sharing initiative, and it solves all of our agencies within the county.
Cost sharing with KSP?
Cost sharing with this project. This infrastructure, there's a cost, obviously,
Yeah.
to tap into that infrastructure. But right now, if the small rural communities like Marsh County and some of these others in our jurisdiction, if they were to try to do this on themselves, I mean, that's going to be a huge expense.
Yeah, a standard, say, three-site system is $3 to $5 million if you're building it all on your own, and then you're spending a couple $100,000 a year to keep it up and operating. Now, some counties do that. I have counties that have $500,000 to $1 million that they're investing in because they have so many users. They have 4,000 or 5,000 users that are on the system. So I look at it this way: when we talk about cost sharing, this map with the coverage, this is at $0. Obviously, you're paying tax money, so I can't really say it's $0, but your tax money is paying for this system to go in, and that's where you start with coverage. So if you wanted to start on your own and build a brand new system, delete everything that's green, delete the local sites that you can roam onto, and that's how you have to start. So you'd have to probably build, a 5-site simulcast or a 4-site simulcast within your bubble, and then you still lose the connectivity when you go out, or you switch to a different radio system. But I think that's the whole point of cost sharing is the couple $1 million of sites that are invested around you, plus the couple million in cores that are invested over the next decade. That's already in play. That's already there. It's not something you'd have to pay for.
So this 300-foot tower addition is happening no matter what?
No.
Is that what you're saying?
No, the coverage today, what you're looking at, is no matter what. The tower here would be, if you decided to add, that would be one of the towers that's being looked at, because center of the county, giving you that perspective.
This map eliminates everything in Marshall County. So this is saying that with nothing else, the KSP is going to bleed over that much from basically your 2 sites when you look at the red dots, right? So red dot are your sites, right? That's where it's bleeding over. It's coming in from here. It's also coming in from MSU. So this is eliminating all that. And then the next map where the blue is with the Draffenville site. That's what's going to pump the rest of the coverage in and make it a lot better throughout the county.
I guess the easy way, too, to understand that is that we're tapping into their infrastructure that they're going to be putting up.
Well, the infrastructure, the core is already there. They've been up because they're driving all the dispatch centers for the KSP posts. Those are all being driven by these cores today. It's the additional sites. That's what we're building right now in Elgin and then shipping out in the next month or 2. So that's the additional investment. But yeah, as far as, heck, if somebody on the eastern side of the state wanted to add a bunch of sites, they could do it today because the brains are already there. And the network is there as far as Q's. Q's has been around for a while. Those microwave paths already exist where it stands today.
And how this presentation ties in with the KOHS grant, obviously the KOHS window is open I think April 21st is when it closes. Yeah. So I've asked Motorola to come back later in the month. I think May 1st might be, because they got to put a bunch of information together. But to miss an opportunity to get some potential grant dollars for tying into this system, I think that the court should at least look at submitting a resolution and a grant for those dollars. Obviously, they'll come back with more detailed numbers for the county, but this is probably one of the best options that we have in cost sharing and fixing a problem that obviously has been a problem for this community and other communities around us for years. So that's why this kind of ties in, and I asked him to be here to give this presentation. But do y'all have any other questions?
Still not getting the cost to share. Who's the share with?
Well,
Them? I don't understand what you're saying here.
KSP's putting a major investment behind it.
Okay.
They're putting.
Okay, that was my question. Is it KSP?
So this
And
is all
okay,
KSP state funded.
okay,
But that's building out the entire system.
Okay.
So when he says cost share, you're not going in and sharing a cost with your system. You're just adding yours to their existing system that's millions and millions of dollars being invested into.
yes. So
And basically eliminating some of that cost off of you. Because when you look at, from a service perspective, he was saying $200,000, $300,000 a year to service this stuff and to keep it up, whereas it might be significantly less when you just have the one site and you just tie into that, like, might be like 5 or 10% of that, just to maintain and to keep the site running, right? Because the heart of the system, you don't own. It's owned by KSP.
So to kind of, you guys are into perspective a little bit for you too, is KSP's got the two hearts of the system, and it's self-healing. One goes down, it goes away. That's the biggest cost to the system. They pay for those, they maintain those. We add a tower with what we were saying, we've already got the tower, we beef our tower up, do what we have to do to be able to reach that height. Instead of starting with a new site, we add to what we have. So we add our tower to their communication. So for one tower, we get the 9 or 10 that are around us. Another community comes on, that's another tower that KSP uses, and another tower that's the availability to everybody in the system. So that's kind of the cost share. The more people get on, like I think you said, you added how many, 90 tower sites in Indiana over?
Well, yeah, I went from 92 to 190 plus.
So that's the advantage. Communities are coming in with the bare minimum to get the ability to get this new technology, this expensive core system that allows us trunking and better use of our infrastructure for a less price. We don't have to buy those expensive cores. We just have to build our infrastructure around it. And it's not necessarily working or with KSP. KSP, you have to look at the structure in our state. They've got 16 posts. They're the backbone of talking across the state. It's already there. It's already in place. So why rebuild that when those things are already in place? The statewide emergency management mutual aid system rides off of that. All that stuff is riding off of that framework. So we're joining a framework that is already there for one tower site instead of maintaining the 3 we have now, which is difficult, and moving to a 5-site system, that we would be responsible for maintaining those 5 sites with no vendor, with no plan, with no maintenance. We're going to be right back in the situation we were in a very short amount of time. So that's the benefit. That's the cost share. I hope that kind of hit at the heart of what you were asking.
But we do own and maintain the one tower, is that right?
Yes.
Correct.
And more or less than we just lease the parts of the rest of the state.
Yeah, well, the rest of the state already exists, so they benefit when you connect in, you benefit when they connect in. So instead of them adding, add double their system, if people want to join, it's like, well, if you join, we'll let you in because it helps them too, right? It's definitely a mutual benefit that goes on there.
You guys are already under an agreement or contract with KSP then?
Correct.
So it's going to happen. What you're contracted for is going to happen.
Correct. Yeah, that's like I said, we're building everything right now. There was even a future phase that got put on hold because of COVID, but as far as what we have right now, that's going in. I expect it to be the post 1 and post 2, knowing how things go. I expect 12 months from now, KSP, all of their troopers in post 1 and 2 will be fully switched over to the new system, would be my expectation, because the it's built, we start sending it out. We got to beef up the towers here and there. Sometimes you have to add a little bit more steel, make sure they can handle the new equipment. Put it in. We got to run 2 systems at once, which is going to be fun as far as us navigating that. But then once it's done, we move to the next section. So that's where it's always a great time to buy. I'm a sales guy, right? That's my whole goal. But if you look at it from having all the engineers, having all the people working in this area, it makes sense to do it now if you're going to do it, right? Because otherwise, it's complete. I come back, now I have to repoint the microwave, I have to maneuver some things around, I have to redo structurals on different towers, then I add your equipment. There is a cost to that. There is a cost savings for adding beforehand. If
A question? Yes. So how much does a 300-foot tall tower cost?
The tower already exists.
You're going to use the existing tower. You're just going to add equipment to that tower.
Correct. The goal would be, so we'd be adding antenna lines, and microwave dishes. So you'd have a microwave dish that's pointing south. So at that point, I would assume, without looking at the actual structure of the tower, that it'll need to be, I just call it beefed up a little bit. Maybe add some more guide wires, add a little bit more steel, and at that point, your existing infrastructure, the shelter that's there, we'd put an ice bridge to make sure, there's nothing that's cracking the antenna lines or screwing anything up. But yeah, the goal would be to reuse it, because towers are expensive, and to build a new tower, it usually takes about 6 months before you can even put a shovel in the ground with all the different studies that need to be approved. Soil samples, NEPA, SHPO, like all the different things. You just can't do anything until it's approved.
So we've got a grant in question here, and we've got money we're going to spend. If we do this, how much money are we talking about, and how much money can be covered through the grant?
Well, that's what I just said. They're going to come back at the end of the month. Right now with the grant window closes on the 21st. But they're going to come back with a more detailed proposal. We don't want to miss an opportunity as far as a grant. Obviously, anytime we can get grant dollars, we want to try to get these grant dollars. So that's really, it'd be difficult for someone to come in front and say, we're going to request KOHS grant monies for this without you guys seeing this too. So that's why they're here today. Obviously, they're going to have to come back and give a more detailed description, and that requires more information that they're currently gathering. So,
But we have to specify an amount on the grant, right? Or
Well-
are we just specifying
yeah, so
pay for all this?
well, if the court approves to do the resolution to put in for a grant, obviously they're going to have to work together to put that information into the grant request and submit it. I can tell you that the Quick Committee, because of this interoperability plan, is already said they're going to approve it because it's what they support. So the Quick Committee, supports it.
And the same as a good chance to get full funding or a hefty amount of funding, because it is the first of its project. It's going to be the through-the-door project.
Yeah.
They'll fund it. We will get money for this, whether it's the full amount or a substantial amount. We'll get money for this, I'm fairly certain.
Don't have any issues with an existing provider to do with Chris as far as being under agreement or contract?
No, we have no contract, no maintenance contracts, no vendor per se, nothing.
You mentioned it being about a year to KSP's up and running. Is it longer for us after that to add it on to it, or would it be a year for us to?
No, it'd be the same. I mean, as quick as we get your equipment in and get it set up, we could have it going, but you're going to benefit when the other ones are there. But it generally takes I mean, even with existing equipment, it generally takes about a year. If you're building new sites, that's about 2 years. I've done enough where I see, no matter how fast you try to move things along, there's FCC licensing, there's microwave licensing, there's a lot of things where you can't position it or you can't order, you got to do a lot of steps before you can get it going. I have the equipment, but I can put it out here. If it doesn't get approved, I'm going to get thrown out of here. So that's why I got to get all the other stuff done first.
The Band-Aid fix that we put on the sheriff's department took 8.5 months during COVID, and that was an amazing feat to get that done in the time that it was done. Considering the parts had to be shipped from China, and the tower site didn't even have a building or electric, so 8.5 months, regardless of feelings of some, that was a pretty substantial feat, considering it usually takes a year or better.
We have one of our system technologists living in the county, so his goal would be to make sure you guys are taken care of.
Did I understand you right to say that this would eliminate the need for our other towers?
So this system would build a 7800 system. If you're using other technology and you're using it for paging or if you're using it for anything else, I'm not going to take that out. It's your system. You do what you want with it. Generally, you run both for a while until you fully migrate one way, to the new system. But paging, there's a lot of different things that you do on the, I'll just call them older systems or older technology that you kind of keep ticking. So again, redundancy, there's nothing wrong with fallback plans.
All right. Any other questions? And like I said, they'll be back probably the end of the month.
Thank you.
All right.
Appreciate your time, everybody.
Thank you.
Appreciate
I didn't put
you.
anybody to sleep, so that's, I did a good job.
With that, is there any discussion on a resolution for the grant?
We have it on our drive. Do we have
No.
something? No.
You can put it up on the screen. If I'm not mistaken, it's similar resolution. KOHS just requires a resolution. I mean, I'm sure Brian's going to be given the same thing again.
And we're not competing for the same fund either.
Right.
Comes-
Two
There's like
separate.
6 different grant funds, so we're not competing against each other.
We got an existing house. It's a different grant within KOHS. Any questions? Is there any action on this?
Motion to approve the resolution.
Second?
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. I'm trying to think, when's our May? May, the first one, May 4th. I know it's a tight window. We got April 20th and May 4th, so I'll work to see when you guys can actually come back. And we'll try to get it, I know we got our budget workshop that week of the 20th. We might try to squeeze y'all a little bit to see if you can come a little bit early, but I'll try to nail down a date for us.
Judge, do we want to mention the other Homeland Security grant that we currently have and how we may be able to apply that money to this as well?
Yeah, one of the I think it was 88,000 that we were approved.
For fire, the same particular Band-Aid fix that we did on the other one, just to get us talking, just to get us decent communication so we could get a future-proof plan like we put in place here. I did a grant for the fire departments and EMS last year in March, and the court approved it to go for, I believe, 5 repeaters. We were awarded that money, and we just met, me, you, and Erica to actually get that money dispersed, and I think we stand a pretty good chance of them rolling that $88,000 into this project as well, once they see if this is the direction we're going. So we have some past grant money that may be able to apply to this as well.
We'll see if we're going to at least request to see if they'll roll those dollars into a program like this. And time will tell. We'll find out.
Thanks, Chris, for working on this and taking the lead on it, everybody working together to get this solved. That's the only way we're gonna get it.
It's not something I gave up on, man. It takes time. It's a tough issue. It's you know, I've dealt with law enforcement my entire life. I've been in it, responder safety. I preached it at the academy. I don't take it lightly. And, you know, it's outside the scope of my duty, but we've got to get it done regardless of who does it. It's got to be done. And this is our best option.
Yep, I agree. Appreciate you guys showing up. I know we spent quite a bit of time on that, so we'll go ahead and go to item B, which is Chad McCann. I know you got a vendor you got to go see. This is the Rivercrest Engineering. Good morning, sir. This is the bids for the Draftonville Sewer Project bid.
This may not be near as exciting as the last presentation.
Wait a minute. Before we go, let me read this resolution. A resolution of the County of Marshall, Kentucky, authorizing the judge executive to make application for and upon approval to enter into an agreement with the Kentucky Office of Homeland Security, KOHS, to execute any documents which are deemed necessary by KOHS to facilitate and administer the project to join the statewide trunk digital radio network and to act as the authorized correspondent for this project. This resolution also establishes procurement policy for any KOHS-approved project for the FY 2021 application cycle, whereas Marshall County, Kentucky desires to make an application for United States Department of Homeland Security and/or Commonwealth of Kentucky funds for a project to be administered by Kentucky Office of Homeland Security, whereas it is recognized that an application for and approval of Kentucky Office of Homeland Security funds impose certain obligations and responsibilities upon the county. Now therefore be it resolved this 6th day of April 2021 by Marshall County, Kentucky, the judge executive is hereby authorized to execute and furnish all required documentation, including a memorandum of agreement, as may be required by KOHS for the furtherance of the above referenced project, and to act as the authorized correspondence for said project. For the purpose of any KOHS-funded projects using FY 2020 funds, the county will use the provisions of KRS 45A for the purchase of equipment and/or services. For any equipment and/or services that exceeds $30,000, the provisions of KRS 45A will apply. I know you guys just read it, so it's been approved, and I'll sign it. Okay. Good morning, sirs.
Good morning. Good morning. As the judge mentioned, we did open bids on the project on the 26th of March for the sewer expansion project here in Draftonville. And got 3 bids, and quite honestly, it's probably about the tightest bid for the number 1 and 2 bidders as I've seen in my career. But 1% difference between the top 2 bidders on $1 million project is pretty good bids. I'd say everybody's looking at it pretty tight and looking at it sharpening their pencils. So at the end of the day, the low bidder was Merco Utility Services LLC on the project, and the total bid received from Merco was $966,040. Like I said, that was $10,000 lower than the second bid on the project.
And about $79,000 less than your estimate, I think.
Yeah, in that ballpark. I brought those numbers if we want to get into the weeds on it, but yeah, pretty close. Didn't know exactly which way the bids were going to come in. Had a lot of discussion with the suppliers and the contractors both about material pricing, and There was a few items that have jumped up, here recently, the PVC market and some of the steel items, which we didn't have a lot of, but that did come into play a little bit, but it's still underneath the estimates that we'd prepared for the project, so feel good about that end of it. We have worked with Merco before, so the purpose of me being here today, again, is just to just basically dictate our recommendation for award of the contract to Merco for that low bid amount. And we've had success working with them in the past, and I know the sanitation district has also. Randy isn't here, but I know his board actually met the day of the bid opening, and they did approve to go forward and agreed with the recommendation that we're presenting here today.
Yeah, let me read that. He had to be out of town, but he sent me an email. This is from the chairman. Marshall County Fiscal Court, please accept our recommendation to award the Draftonville West Sewer Expansion Construction Contract to Merco, Inc. of Paducah for a total of $966.40. Our recommendation is based on past performance as well as Merco being the lowest bidder of 3 contractors to submit bids. And that's from Randy Green, chairman. And that's $966,000.
Yes.
I move we award the contract to Merco.
Second.
All those in favor say aye. 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 Any opposed?
I voted no on this project, so I'm going to follow through with a no vote. This has no reflection on the contractor. Merco does great work.
Motion carries. All right. Thank you, sir.
And you have the documentation for the agreement documents I emailed to you.
Yeah.
Very good. Just a couple other quick updates on the Jonathan Creek projects that we're working on for the water system. We've completed the final surveys on 3 out of the 4 projects, and we're working on finalizing design of the Mayfield Highway project right now. As soon as we get done with that, we'll go to Soldier Creek, finish that one, and then Olive Hamlet and Curd Road.
Good deal.
We're working on those. And then last thing, I did get an update from the Merco on the cleanup on the Southwest 1 project. I know a lot of property owners are waiting on that. The weather is cooperating, and they've got a subcontractor they're working with that should be out there as soon as this week, start addressing those yards and getting everything shaped up, and get all the landscaping done on that project.
All right.
Thank you very much.
I guess you're all in on all this money coming in for infrastructure, huh? It ain't bad for
wait and see.
Rivercrest
We've got a lot of
Engineering.
clients that are waiting and ready and willing to accept.
Yeah.
But yeah, just kind of waiting to see what's going to happen with it, for sure.
Thanks, Chad.
Thank you.
All right. We'll move to item C, Brian Cutsinger. Good morning, sir.
Good morning. Thank you, Judge, Commissioners. Today, much like Chris was here, I'm here to request the court's approval to submit a Homeland Security grant for first responder equipment. Kind of like Chris was saying, there are 2 different pools of money that we're applying for, so we're not competing, so to speak, against each other. What we're looking at for ours, we're kind of in the beginning phases of phasing out some of our older equipment. More specifically, what we're looking to apply for is our heart monitors. We were made aware, I believe it was last year, that kind of like a lot of things in the medical field is that the monitors are still good, they function good, they get annual PMs to make sure they function appropriately, but they're not making replacement parts for them anymore. So basically, kind of the position we're in is that as long as they function, we're good. But if something were to go down, a certain piece or a circuit board or something go in them, go out, then we're kind of, in a bad position and we're not able to get those parts. So kind of knowing that information, the plan I'm looking at doing is hopefully having some luck with Homeland Security to get money to replace some of these. I'm kind of breaking it down into 2 phases. First one this year, hopefully doing a second one next year. So for this phase, I'm looking at applying for 4 heart monitors, which the quote, it's approximately $114,000 is what the application will be for. So kind of like with Chris, basically what we have to have from the court is a resolution basically approving me to submit that application on behalf of EMS.
Let me read this resolution. County of Marshall, a resolution of the County of Marshall, Kentucky, authorizing the judge executive to make application for and upon approval to enter into an agreement with the Kentucky Office of Homeland Security, KOHS, to execute any documents which are deemed necessary by KOHS to facilitate and administer the project and to act as the authorized correspondent for this project. This resolution also establishes procurement policy for any KOHS approved project for the FY 2021 application cycle. Whereas Marshall County, Kentucky desires to make an application for United States Department of Homeland Security and/or Commonwealth of Kentucky funds for a project to be administered by Kentucky Office of Homeland Security. Whereas it is recognized that an application for and approval of Kentucky Office of Homeland Security funds impose certain obligations and responsibilities upon the county. Now therefore be it resolved this day, Marshall County, Kentucky, the judge executive is hereby authorized to execute and furnish all required documentation, including a memorandum of agreement, as may be required by KOHS for the furtherance of the above referenced project, and to act as the authorized correspondent for said project. For the purpose of the KOHS funded project, using FY 2021 funds, the county will use the provisions of KRS 45A for the purchase of equipment and/or services for any equipment and/or services under $20,000. 3 quotes will be obtained for any equipment and/or services that exceeds $20,000. The provisions of KRS 45A will apply. That's the resolution.
Move to approve the resolution.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Brian.
Let's see, we'll go to item D, Parks Director Brittany Hargrove.
Hello.
Morning.
All right, we're talking about ball field lots today. And Brad, do you have, okay, perfect. We had somebody come out to check out our ball fields. We had several lots that were out on all of the fields, actually. So we brought out Musco Lotting to kind of take a look at everything, and they actually did a metered lot reading of our fields and based this off of KHSAA lighting standards and the Little League sanctioned lighting standards. And I've had him put this up here on the screen so that you can see it a little bit better. But basically, here's where we're at. So for the infield, the standard is 50. Ours were like at 18, 13, 31, 33, 26. So this just kind of shows you how far off our lighting is currently from the standard that is recommended. And this is just because we have so many lights that have gone out and need to be replaced. So from that, we got several different quotes. Musco did give us one quote, $700,000 to replace everything and go LED. Obviously, that's off the table. So we do have some quotes to just replace the lights that are out. The lower of the 2 quotes were for Norwood Electric and DC Electric. I have talked to them this morning. One of the biggest differences in the quotes were that DC quoted for 40 lights to be replaced. Norwood quoted for 38 to be replaced. I did talk to him to go ahead and replace those additional 2 lights would add an additional $966 to his price. So about $1,000 more, give or take, for 2 more lights. And the other difference is that DC can actually do that light reading again after the lights are installed. They have that, whatever that tool is that measures the lighting, and they can do that for us. We did talk to Keith this morning. He does not have that kind of tool, but he can purchase one, and then he could try to do that same thing. It would be an additional $100, which is just the cost for him to buy the meter to be able to do it. So that's basically where we're at with the 2 lower of the quotes that we got.
So that was going to be my first question, and you addressed it, because it looked like that the other bid was 38 as well. But it is 40 is what it's supposed to be.
There were 2, we counted 38 that are totally out. I believe there are 2 that are like on their way out.
Okay.
That are starting to dim pretty significantly. They kind of turn pink before they go out. They kind of have a pink cast to them.
Okay.
And so I think that's where that additional 2 went. So I did go ahead and have him add that to his quote to bring that up to 40, just so we were comparing, 2 pretty identical quotes.
All right. So
How much did he add to the quote?
19,420 is what I come up with. Does that sound right?
Mm-hmm. And then I did talk to both of them as well about when they could start. And It kind of depends on weather a little bit because some of the field would require taking the lift bucket truck out onto the field itself. So we're going to have to be a little bit careful with baseball season starting. Some of the fields we can get to from a parking lot or from outside the fence. DC Electric said they would be looking at a few weeks to probably a month before they could come out, weather dependent. And then Norwood, as soon as he can get the lights and everything in, and the weather permitting, he could get started.
Has there been any discussion about the lights at Hardin? I know you and I have talked about that at the park. Is that
That would
included
be,
in this
no, that is not included in
Okay.
this. This is just strictly for the 5
for
fields.
Mike Miller Park?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, with 5 baseball fields, having 38 to 40 lights out has really been an issue.
Yep.
With our baseball and softball this year, last year we had 11 teams, about 170 players. This year we have 19 teams and about 260 kids playing in our league.
That's
and then
awesome.
outside tournaments have kicked back up as well. So there's really a whole lot of activity that's going to be happening on our field. So I feel like this is, pretty important that we get this addressed.
I agree.
Is there any discussion on these, other than what
So-
we discussed?
So if we could do, say, 10,000 of it from the court, could the foundation, or whatever it's called, the parks,
Yeah, the Park Foundation.
Foundation.
Marsh County Parks Incorporated.
cover the rest?
That would be,
Yeah, I mean, I think we got to remember the Miracle League. You want to update, while we're talking about monies out of the association,
yeah.
the grant?
Yeah, the grant that we were applying for through the state for the recycled chrome rubber that we were going to use, which was hopefully going to cover the playing surface. We found out right at the last minute that they changed one of the requirements on the grant, which made the field surfacing ineligible for the grant, but the playground surfacing is eligible for the grant. So basically, long story short, because they changed this, it had something to do with the amount of rubber that is in the surfacing, and it was different than the requirements were in the past. So it kind of disqualified us from being able to apply now. So we can apply for this grant when we get ready to do the Miracle League Playground, but we are not going to be able to use that grant for the field surfacing itself.
And I think there's some other grants that she's going to be looking into, but it's the
Yes.
timeline.
Yep. There are a couple of different things. The Pujols Foundation that Jason told me about. There is the LWCF grant. That is an option to look into. And there are a couple of other different ones. There's some additional grants too, like the Christopher Reeves Foundation, where we can get bits and pieces of the project, but there's some stipulation on new construction. So I've got several different ones. I've also had Comer has had his office send me some other ideas for some grant possibilities as well. So we're digging in and researching a lot of different options for this.
What was the cost on the field again, Brittany?
It's going to be about $150,000.
And do we know if the contract that we have with CFSB, if they're,
They have not mentioned anything else recently. They have been communicating with CMS, so I haven't, nothing has been said specifically.
okay, we might want to reach out to them. I know they've been patient and they have pushed that deadline. Obviously, COVID had an effect on that, but we are in a contract, and it's all tied in together. So we might want to reach out to them and just see where
Okay.
they
I can do that.
So that brings back to the association. I mean, some of those monies were committed, if not majority of those monies were committed for the Miracle League. So I don't know as far as how much monies are available.
We've got roughly that are not committed to Miracle League, somewhere between $80,000 and $100,000 currently.
Okay. And that was before we found out about the grant.
Right.
Yeah. So it might be something, I think we definitely need to find out from CFSB what their position is.
Sure.
I mean, this is up for discussion as far as where the money's going to come from. Because if we use any monies out of there, we're going to have to, with $100 and something plus $1,000, we're going to have to pull those additional dollars from somewhere else. So, in this, did they say how long it would take for them to get set up to do this?
To do the lights?
Yeah.
Yeah, it would basically depend on how long it would take them to get the equipment in. So a couple of weeks, probably, is what I think they were kind of estimating.
I just throw that out there for discussion, so that the court understands that. That's, I think the timeline was this year that we had went with. And those other grants don't fit, from my understanding, don't fit our timeline.
Right. The Land and Water Conservation Fund would not be awarded until the next calendar year. So that was one of the biggest ones. You can go up to about $250,000, I believe, on that grant application. And I've got the exact timeline back at the office, but it looked like more of a 2022 type award on that grant. And that is a reimbursement grant as well, so we would have to front that money and then hope that we received the award. So it's a little bit of a different situation than some of the other quick turnaround grants that we had looked at.
Well, I mean, I think this is something that we should do, safety first, but then secondly, because of, I mean, you know, I sat down with Josh and Elena not too long ago, and I know one of the things that you know, she's focused on in the tourism is other avenues other than relying completely on Kentucky Lake because of some, you know, the Asian carp and stuff like that. And so this is, our park out there is a way to bring in tourism, and I certainly don't want them to come and see lighting that is substandard. But I guess the question then is, where do we take the money?
I think we all support getting the lightings fixed. It's where the money's coming from.
Yeah, so what's your, do you have a?
What's your recommendation?
My recommendation on where the monies are coming from.
Well,
I mean,
Erica, what's the?
Well, which quote? I'm going to assume we're going to look at the lowest quote, correct?
And I also want to throw in one other thing too, sorry to interrupt. In our budget, in past years, there was a $20,000 line that we had in the budget, and I believe it was labeled as like new construction or things like that. So in a non-COVID year, we would have had the money in our budget to be able to handle this, which is the only reason we're having to come to the court at this point. Any other year with a normal budget like we have typically had, I could have just handled this, and that could have been our new construction project for the year. So this all kind of falls under that. And that's kind of how I had designated that line in the budget, was to start kind of fixing some of the things that had broken down. So that's kind of how we got in this situation. It wasn't something that I was unaware of. It wasn't something that, you know, it just, because of the budget cuts and COVID and it's an off year.
Been
So
anything
that's
but
how
a
we got here.
typical year, so yeah.
Yes, yeah. This, any other year, we could have handled this without having to come ask for more money. It was just because of the cuts that were made to the budget. That's why I'm here with my hands out, basically.
I think the biggest thing is that the court understands that, you know, the grant that we applied for, those rules changed. So there are over $100,000 that the court has to commit. And understanding that, I mean, I think that's why I brought that up. We can obviously there's quite a bit of monies, well, not quite a bit, but there are dollars that were going to be committed out of the association funds. But since that grant is no longer available, those funds, may need to be used for, supporting the Miracle League, which we are in a contract with. We're going to be meeting, and I know they got the leagues playing right now, so we have games being played as we speak. The schedule's already out. We're meeting the third week of this month to discuss budgetary items. There are dollars there in the association account. If that's where the court wants to pull those dollars, I'm fine with that. We all at least know that we have $100-something thousand that with the Miracle League that we have committed to are going to have to come from somewhere. So if we pull, what was the amount that you added to this? The 18,354.
19,420.
19. So a little bit over $20,000. We just need to be mindful of that's going to have to come from somewhere else. So games are being played, and I think I know the court's position is to make sure we get lighting where it needs to be, but just know that it is dipping into monies that we have already committed. So it's going to have to come from somewhere else in the budget, which will give us, in 2 weeks when we meet, the opportunity to discuss that further as far as where some monies can come from.
You look like you're inching towards.
Oh, well, you could just,
Mike.
when you guys were talking about this, you'd ask if I had any ideas. I know that, and Jason reminded me, we did get that $20,000 settlement, of which you all agreed to give 11 towards the siren. So there's a little bit there. And then, of course, the clerk turned over more in excess fees than he we had budgeted. And then there's a difference there where you all had decided to give 90,000 back, but there's still a little bit left there too. However, I had them in my mind earmarked for the roof. I know you all haven't had that discussion yet, but those are there. But if you went towards that direction, then you also have to figure out about the roof, and those might not even cover the roof. I don't know the roof information yet. So.
Oh man.
Well, why don't we do this? Because I just wanted to bring it to the attention of the court, is that obviously there's quite a few programs and projects that we have committed to. If we take the monies from the association account, that solves the lighting problem now. And that work is 2 weeks out, so that can get going as we speak. We're going to be meeting to discuss the budget in full detail. We've scheduled a week to discuss that. And that's where we can get into the details, because when we start talking about the other pots of money, there's other projects that have been kind of attached to it. And so I think that would be right now the best thing to do. But I just wanted to bring that to the attention of the court.
Yeah, I'm totally fine with whatever option we need to go with so that I can get these lights fixed for the kids. And that's totally fine.
Well, I move that we accept the bid from Norwood Electric for $19,420 and take the money from the Parks Foundation
Second.
account.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. And I know weather permits, but if you can follow up with CFSB, just that
Yes.
way we'll have that for
That information
our budget
before we do budget.
workshops. Yeah.
Okay, absolutely. Well, thank you guys
All
so
right.
much.
Thanks.
Where did you need a restroom break? You said 11 o'clock.
Yeah.
Move for a recess.
We have just made it through the guests.
Huh? I know it. I told you we'd be here all day. I've got a motion on the floor for a recess.
Second.
We'll watch you squirm.
Second.
All those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. We'll go ahead and call court back to order. Under correspondence, KOHS structure point deadline for GIS mapping. This deadline was originally set in October of this year, and it has been changed. If you remember, I don't know who all showed up to the Alliance meeting probably about 2 years ago. It was here in the Fiscal Court. We met, I know, an executive session. We had the mapping issue that was discussed. It tied in with the fatality on 408. This all ties in to that timeline. The submittal deadline, the structure points for each address structure, like I said, was October. It's been pushed to July 1 of this year. I've met with Andy and Casey, and I had Chris and Wade as well present to make them available to help get this done, because this is going to be a task. We've been trying to get this done since that meeting, and it's more than just moving a click on the map on a structure. It's actually getting into the actual description of the actual location, the who, what at the location. If you, I'll give this to everybody. I don't know if you've got this. You should have a copy of it. It was sent out by KOHS, but descriptive name, discrepancy agency ID, date updated, effective date, additional codes, county. It just goes through a whole list. The street name, the pre-modifier, directional type separator. The point is, and I know Andy's working on this, but if this isn't met, basically we have funding that can be, we wouldn't be able to get certain funding. So this is the changes that are coming down for the NG 911 mapping guide. So this is the next generation of standards in our mapping. We've got, for lack of better terms, our mapping it needs a lot of improvement, and that's not anything against our GIS department. It's just years of, as you guys remember the presentation that was given, the data that you put in is the data that you're going to get. And if it's poor data in, or if it's inaccurate data that's in, or no data at all, that causes problems for the end user that's out there requesting the information. And it just starts from, the GIS office all the way to 911 to the actual, first responders. There's a whole host. I had a gentleman in my office not too long ago with address issues. So this, to me, the concern I have is that if this is not met, we will lose funding. And I don't know how other communities are handling these standards and how these changes are coming down. But we discussed this, talked about how it's going to be coming, and here it is. So I just bring this to the attention of the court. If anybody has any questions, I know Andy is working on it, but this is a lot of information that has to be added to that address point. Do y'all remember the meeting and the issue with the fatality on 408? That was a mapping issue, and I mean we've got those types of issues all through our mapping in the database. So now the KOHS, the NG 911 changes that are coming. This is July 1, 2021 is just the structure points for each address structure. By July 1 of 2022, structure and site points for each address feature. And then July 1 of 2023, inclusion of sub-addresses for applicable addresses. address units and structures and sites. So I just bring it to y'all's attention that that deadline has been moved up from October to July 1. No questions, we'll move on to old business. Approve the minutes of March 16th meeting. Second.
Second.
All those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Item B, sanitation premium.
When Randy came and talked to the court about his contract that he received and paying his sanitation workers a premium, $200 a paycheck, after we went back and did that payroll to retroactive that to the date that was decided in the last meeting, Randy called and there was a misunderstanding in his intention. So his intention was for the workers to have a net change on their check of $200. So for that to happen, the gross change needs to be $269 per paycheck. So I can't just do that without bringing it to you all. Of course, that's still all reimbursed by the sanitation district. So that changes their monthly reimbursement. It was $1,900 some odd dollars in the way it was calculated before. So that $269 per paycheck for each person changes their monthly reimbursement from the sanitation district to $2,466.67 a month.
Net to the county is zero.
Nothing, yes.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
Move we approve.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Item C, grounds policy. And this is the, Justin, I think this is the one that you wanted on here.
Yeah, I would like to update my portrait downstairs. You all seen the portrait? I'd like to get it updated, so. Is that okay with y'all?
Somebody gonna be painting it, or are you just gonna take a picture?
We thought about commissioning the painting, but thought that'd be too much snow, and it'd be at my own expense too, so.
And it's the one you showed us? Yes. Okay.
The photo that I believe you're talking about is the one downstairs hanging on the wall above the district maps. The court voted to, and this was the previous court, had voted, the intent was to put the district maps up and then put the commissioners above the map so that folks would know what district they're in and who their representatives are. There is a consistency with those photos. And the photo you're talking about is a photo with a flag in it, correct?
American flag. They've seen it.
I don't have an issue with it, so.
Okay, so is there a motion for Justin to put up a photo of him?
That photo. So moved. No.
Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
And I'm going to oppose, and the reason why I'm going to oppose is because it's going to be inconsistent with the other photos. It's your image. Yep. Motion carries. We'll move on to new business, community development block grant resolution. So I'm just going to read this resolution. We have an opportunity for our utility companies in Marsh County. It's going to be by way of a CDBG grant through the PAD to give assistance for those that, due to COVID, could not pay their funds or pay their utility bills. Marsh County Fiscal Court, it's a resolution of Marsh County Fiscal Court. In a meeting of the Marsh County Fiscal Court, the members approved the following resolution supporting the submission of an application for Community Development Block Grant CV funds to be used for the utilities assistance with West Kentucky Allied Services CAP agency in Marsh County, whereas the Marshall County Fiscal Court endeavors to support all efforts to improve the social and physical environment of Marshall County, whereas the Marshall County Fiscal Court wishes to support efforts to improve the community's utilities in Marshall County, be it resolved, the Marshall County Fiscal Court approves the submittal of an application for the Community Development Block Grant, CV Grant 2021 funds to assist in the community's utilities and the residents in Marshall County. And as of to date, we have $208,400 that the utilities in the county are identifying as 1,277 accounts that are delinquent.
Move we approve the grant resolution.
Second.
All those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries.
You said 208, is that what you said?
2084.
284.
$319H funds update.
I was on a call with the Department of Water, the state that administers these funds, and their concern was that we haven't had a whole lot of participation with these grant funds. And as you know, this is the funds that make it available for people to tap onto the sewer in Draftonville and the Chestnut Creek area. The deadline is March 2022. That's when it's kind of different, but the deadline is March 2022. The funding is available through September 2022. So after speaking with them, they're concerned, and they were asking if they should reallocate these funds to another area. So in order for us to spend these funds, what they have made available, it used to be 90%, depending on your income reimbursement, or 10% or 20% reimbursement. Now they're going to make it available for everybody to be 90% reimbursement. Okay, so even the ones that previously were reimbursed 20%, they're coming back and refunding them, and going to be 90%. So, as an attempt to get more participation, that's what's being developed. Me and Casey Medell, she's the Chestnut Creek Watershed Coordinator that I'm working with on this grant. We work together to create another flyer to put out there to make these funds available, to make sure people know there's going to be a cutoff for these funds. The second part of this is our ordinance that was put in place for the sanitation district. As you know, in there's a 500 linear foot requirement. If somebody's within that 500 foot linear foot, then they are required to tap on. And part of the enforcement piece of that is if they do not and they're notified, it could be a $50 to $500 per day fine, and each day is a different charge. So it could be per day. We put that in the flyer for people to understand that there's a consequence for them not to tap on. So take advantage of these funds now before they're all gone, and you have to commit all the money yourself. So people know it is a reimbursed grant or reimbursable expense. So the homeowner gets 3 quotes to have a plumber come in and tap them on. They pay the plumber. They return everything into me. We cut them a check for 90% of what they paid, and then we get reimbursed from those 319H funds. So we wanted to make that available for people to understand that there's a timeline, and we really want to start putting people on this. So I wanted to update you all, but also wanted to update the public, the people that this can be effective in Draftonville.
Will this be available for the West?
We won't be, by March 2022, we won't be over there for them to, I don't expect for them to be able to tap on. But no, not at this point. But if for some reason we get that line over there, then I could see going to the Department of Water and asking for them to be available too.
Is it something that they can prearrange before the line gets there, knowing that the court's approved?
I don't know that the plumber could accurately give them a quote for that work, not knowing where the line would be or what kind of work they would have to perform to get there. And then if it's not there by March 2022, then you're kind of, the plumber's not gonna come out and dig and stub it out and hope that it gets there, right? So that would kind of be a little clunky. So if you talk to anybody in that area, let them know that we can make it available. They can call our office and get the application. We can email it to them, whatever it makes it easier for them, but it is going to be 90% reimbursed no matter your income. And they're not going to require that you submit income information. Just fill out the application and we'll get you ready.
The deadline is
March 2022.
Submitted to the fiscal court.
For them to make application, get approval, and get the work done. I think where the September comes in is we can still submit for reimbursement. We just have to have it all approved by March 2022. So I would assume the last day in March.
All right. Any questions on that? If not, item C, road department title change.
This is something that I discussed with Nicole Ford. As you know, she took on a different role when Roy was hired, and I think in your drive you saw her title change from administrative assistant to office administrator. If you see the attached responsibilities, there's a lengthy list of her responsibilities that are also paired with Roy's. Some of these, they work side by side together with, but these are all things that she does have her hands in. And I've discussed this with Roy, and feels like that is an appropriate title change. It doesn't come with any additional pay. It's just, from an HR standpoint, gives more structure to that position.
Need an action to approve it?
Yes, we have to have an
moved.
action approved.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Item E, occupational tax deadline change.
Did you mean to
Skip
skip
D.
D? There's a D
I
in
did,
between
didn't I?
C and E.
Okay, we'll go back to D. Road Department and Parks Department seasonal personnel. If you guys remember, the current budget, we cut those positions out of the budget, and the mowing season has started up. And so three personnel for seasonal for the Road Department, and then 2 personnel seasonal for the Parks Department is what's being requested. And that is May 1st.
Wasn't that, something's in our transfer?
Right,
for
it's
that?
on your transfer. It's
Okay.
the last 5 lines of the transfer that says appropriation transfer due to COVID budget cut out of the CARES money into park labor, road labor, and then the places where those Social Security matches are paid from.
Okay. Move we approve.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Now item E.
Okay, the federal government has changed their individual filing deadline to May 17th. And in general, occupational tax follows the federal guidelines, federal deadline. And so I believe that we need to change our date to match that May 17th date. And we have already had some phone calls asking about it, so.
I
Is the
move,
state-
we
did the state
move.
change too?
I believe the
The date.
state matched the Fed.
Second that.
The motion and second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Item F, memorandum of understanding, Marshall County Fiscal Court and Department of Agricultural. This is the, I'll just read this. This is for a short-term mosquito spraying. Memorandum of understanding between the Kentucky Department of Agricultural, Division of Environmental Services, and the Marshall County Fiscal Court. This agreement made and entered into the 2021 between the Kentucky Department of Agriculture, hereinafter KDA, and the Marshall County Fiscal Court, hereinafter MCFC, in consideration of the mutual covenants and agreements herein contained, do hereby agree as follows. Whereas KDA is charged by KRS 249-350, subparagraph 2, that when it appears to the commissioner that mosquitoes are present in any area of the state in sufficient numbers to warrant action, he shall conduct an immediate investigation of the causes thereof and corrective measures necessary. The commissioner shall undertake the control and elimination of mosquitoes in such area, utilizing whatever measures appear necessary so long as such methods in no wise damage the property of any person and do not constitute a menace to the health of persons or livestock. Whereas Marshall County Fiscal Court is authorized pursuant to KRS 6183, subparagraph 3 and C, to exercise the power to carry out governmental functions necessary for the operation of the county and to perform public functions, including public sanitation and vector control. And whereas a cooperative effort between KDA and MCFC, exercising their respective powers and authorities, is beneficial to the citizens of the Commonwealth of Kentucky in addressing mosquito population levels with the purpose of reducing the risk of vector-borne disease transmission. Now, therefore, the parties agree as follows. This agreement shall be in effect from the date on which this agreement is entered into and shall terminate on October 1, 2021. KDA shall supply one ultra-low volume ULV application unit for the application of mosquito control products to Marshall County Fiscal Court. Marshall County Fiscal Court shall not be responsible for routine maintenance on the ULV application units. Marshall County Fiscal Court shall be responsible for the monitoring and maintaining the lubricant levels to ensure proper operation of the ULV application units. KDA will provide the necessary amount of lubricant fluid for the duration of the agreement. Marshall County Fiscal Court shall be responsible for any damage or loss incurred to the units provided by KDA and shall reimburse KDA for such damage or loss incurred. Marshall County Fiscal Court shall perform all mosquito control operations in compliance with state statutes and regulation. This agreement may be terminated by either party at any time for cause or may be canceled without cause upon 7 days prior written notice. Upon termination of this agreement or upon written notice, Marshall County Fiscal Court shall return the ULV application unit to the KDA within 7 days after the termination date or written notice. This agreement may be modified only in a written document executed by both parties. KDA and Marshall County Fiscal Court mutually agree that they do not discriminate on the basis of race, color, national origin, sex, religion, age, or disability of employment, or for the provisions of services, and provides upon request reasonable accommodation, including auxiliary aids and service necessary to afford individuals with disabilities an equal opportunity to participate in all programs and activities. This writing is a complete statement of the agreement between KDA and Marshall County Fiscal Court and supersedes any prior terms, presentations, or agreements, whether made orally or in writing. The laws of the Commonwealth of Kentucky shall govern all questions as to the execution, validity, interpretation, and performance of this agreement. Furthermore, the parties hereto agree that any legal action which is brought on the basis of this agreement shall be filed in the Franklin County Circuit Court. So that's the memorandum of understanding. If the court wants to entertain that again this year,
I move we accept it.
all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Transfers.
Okay, so we just talked about the last 5 transfers that are on the list. The first 3 are a departmental transfer, and then the second 2 are to the sheriff's agency operations from the CARES money for COVID-related expenses. Over on the right, I gave you a little column that says bank transfer needed ? And that's because I also need to do a transfer, for the bank, for the actual dollars. That's the other page. The last 3 on that reflect what's in the appropriation transfers. The first one, I have occupational tax CARES money to the jail of $80,000. If that's how you all, that last time that the jail needed money because of their decreased revenues because of COVID, we took it from the CARES money. My assumption was you wanted to do it again this time. If not, you can approve this with, amend it to say wherever you would rather that money come from if you want it from somewhere else.
Move we approve the transfer.
Second.
All those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Is there any reason to deny payment of the bills, claims? Hearing none, let the clerk record that the bills, claims are to be paid. We need to go into executive session.
Second.
Second,
A
all
short
those in
executive
favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
Well, that makes sense.
Motion to adjourn?
So moved.
All those in favor say aye.
Second.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries.